carriage, remembering that she came from the Blanchet family, and it was strange that her family could so easily allow their daughter to stay at the Duke's residence. He couldn't even imagine that cohabitation would be so difficult, and decided to find out more about it. Leaving his estate, another carriage drove towards his carriage. Apparently a clergyman was traveling to the estate. A long-haired guy with bright yellow eyes came into Larry's room and told her that he had come from the temple. The guy sat down next to her on the bed and introduced himself as Doha, a servant of the Alteon temple, and Larry only said her name. Larry thought he was very handsome, and Doha took her face in his hands and began to treat her. He suddenly asked how the lady ended up in such a place. He explained that because of the Duke's curse, he was avoided even in the temple. There was also a clear hierarchy in the temple. A priest like him was often ignored. Larry noticed a scar on his forehead. She had heard that this kind of wound only happened to low-ranking priests who had no money, and the priest had already completed his treatment. If they had money, they could have assigned another clergyman to heal the wound, so she decided to help him in gratitude for her treatment. She asked him to come closer and began to heal his wound, which turned out to also require a lot of mana. But still she succeeded. The priest was amazed and asked if she was a healing magician. He looked suspicious. He came even closer and asked if she would like to work as his personal healing magician. They would definitely agree on a price. This surprised Larry because she thought that the lower priests had a lack of money, especially since she preferred purification. So she refused. But the priest didn't back down and asked what about later. She could just say when she was free, "Why don't the priest be a little more modest and not get so close to her?" Larry replied that she would think about it, and then Doha said that as a sign of gratitude he would continue to treat her for free. If she healed him, he would definitely pay accordingly, and Larry continued to fool around, saying that his face was dazzling. But the money did the trick, and she agreed, and Doha said that now that they have a good relationship, they can become close friends. The sly fox explained that he suggested this because she really liked Lady Larietta. Larry thought that she had never had such friends before, and it would be nice to experience friendship before death, and joyfully agreed to become his friend. He then returned to the temple where he was welcomed, but they called him High Priest Michael Dohavilian, which means he is not of low rank. He was met by a subordinate who complained that it was very tiring when the high priest constantly wanders wherever he pleases. He also noticed that the scar on his face had disappeared and asked about it. Doha replied that the healer sorceress did it. This surprised the guy, and he asked if he wanted to say that there is a magician healer who has the same power as their high priest. Meanwhile, Asher continued to sit in his karate, doubting whether he was succeeding or not. He didn't want to go, but he went out anyway. The coachman was worried that he might decide to kill someone else today. Asher thought he kept feeling like he had to go straight to her. He couldn't understand why he continued to take care of the sorceress before he could open the door. Larry opened it. Asher thought that this was the first time someone met him at the door. The butler's feelings were definitely hurt, because he was just coming out to greet him. But without giving a sign, he walked past her. But Larry tied his hand and thanked him for the priest who cured her. She put his hand on her forehead and said that in 2 days she would be completely healthy. Asher quickly moved away from her and said that there was no such clause as affection in their agreement. But she followed him and asked if he didn't want to see her, and didn't think about her for a minute during the day. Asher replied that it was not, but Larry noticed that his ears were turning red and said that he was having a strange reaction, and again asked if he was thinking about her. She then asked what he was doing tomorrow. Asher replied that he would be sorting out documents at the mansion and asked if she wanted to do the cleansing, but she replied that she would do it in 3 days. Larry suggested going on a date and showed them the tickets. But Asher only asked what the pieces of paper were, and Larry sulked and said that they weren't just paper, and she had a hard time getting those tickets. He asked what the show would be, and Larry replied that it was a famous performance and a premium box seat, and the last performance was tomorrow. But Asher immediately refused. Larry, with wet eyes, asked why, while Asher thought that he could not go to such a place with his curse. He is sure that as soon as he enters, everyone will avoid him and look at him in disgust. And he doesn't know why she takes his curse so lightly, but he needs to understand that not all people are like that, and he is not allowed the luxury of going to a public place. But instead of explaining, he asked if she really wasn't afraid of him, because the rumors about the war demon were not just fairy tales, and tens or hundreds of lives had died at his hand. It is not surprising that others are afraid of him because he is close to death, not only in the sense of smell and rot, but also in his actions. Larry thought it was really scary, but not scary enough to run away, and then she just hit him. She got angry and said that she dared to attack Duke Candle, and asked what he would do now. In addition, she usually looked at the Duke's face and held his hands without his consent, and also called him by name. Asher was clearly at a loss. She screamed whether he was going to kill her now, why he was telling her such things, and that she wanted to hear the answer she wanted, and also the reason. Larry asked if he wanted to go to the show with her or not, and told him not to worry about others, and only think about what he wanted to do. She then left, saying that she wanted to hear his answer tomorrow, and if he refused, she would go with a completely different guy. Tomorrow came, and Larry beamed with happiness, not to mention Asher. To celebrate, she missed a step and began to fall, but Asher quickly caught her. She just liked it, and Asher told her not to secretly hold his hands, which upset Larry, and she replied that she did so because he caught her. Turning to the crowd, Asher was noticeably nervous, and Larry decided to help him, taking his hand and telling him that he could go, especially since they had a private VIT-box. After watching the performance, they left the hall, and Larry was pleased. She said that the performance was very funny, but Asher said that it was not bad. Larry said that the main character is so handsome, and Asher asked that she likes princes, but Larry replied that she likes everything beautiful. She asked him to wait in the karate, and she went to the restroom. When she came out, she thought that she wanted to have dinner with him, when suddenly the fat Marquis appeared. Larry immediately began preparing her magic, and reminded him that she had told him that it would be better for him to avoid meeting her. The Marquis replied that she did not understand the situation she was in. Even if she resisted, the precious body should not be pierced. He was a vile type. Suddenly she was surrounded, and he said that he was looking forward to meeting her, although he could not forget his humiliation that day. But now that she is a commoner, he decided to make her his concubine since she is so beautiful. Fortunately, Asher arrived in time and got rid of those who were holding Larry and hit the Marquis. Asher said that he was waiting for her, but she did not return, so he came to pick her up. Asher said that anyone who dares to touch what belongs to him will die, and asked if she was disappointed in him. The Marquis woke up and began shouting at Asher if he knew who he was, and Asher asked him why he was telling him this. Apparently, Asher is not against killing him too, and Larry said that this is the Marquis, and this situation will not lead to anything good. Asher thought that he had been recognized by the Emperor and had his favor, so there was no need to worry, but Larry took his hand and pulled him along. They got into their carriage, and Asher calmly thought that he didn't care about the Marquis. The main thing for him was to save her. He asked if she was okay. Larry replied that she was out of breath. Asher began to worry that now, having seen his cruelty, she would want to end all relations with him, but they were bound by contracts, so it would not matter. But Larry called him and said that it was cool, and he was much cooler than the main character in the play. She thought it was wrong to resort to violence so easily, but let's pretend it was self-defense. Doha treated Larry and told her to be careful because she was sick again. Larry thought that it was probably because of yesterday's incident. Suddenly, Larry asked him if it was possible to cure an incurable disease with divine power. An incurable disease is a disease that cannot be cured by either healing magic or divine power. But if it can be cured, then it is not called incurable. Doha said that it is possible to heal someone with such a disease with divine power equal to that of His Holiness the Pope. Remember, he is that same Pope. He could see her divine power. Larry had a twisted mana chain. This is a rare case that happens to people with an excess of unbalanced and uncouth mana. This girl will not die, but she will suffer from bone pain all her life. Healing will not be easy, but it will not take much time. Doha thought that she was a useful magician, so it was okay to waste a little. Larry's magic was uncouth because no one taught her how to use it. So Doha said that he would help her recover periodically, and Larry replied that she would be grateful. Doha suddenly hugged her and began his treatment again, using his power. He said that was all for today. The procedure would need to be repeated several more times. Then Doha asked if she could help him a little in gratitude. He showed his hand, which was bloody, and Larry asked how he got so hurt, and Doha simply replied that it happened that way. His theory was confirmed. It turns out he injured himself to test her abilities. Larry fell on the bed because she spent too much mana. Not surprising, because he is a high priest. Doha gave Larry the gem as payment for the healing. She asked where he got it from, and Doha lied that he just picked it up. Larry was very happy about such a valuable payment. She began to thank him and said that she would treat him as a regular customer. She told him to remember that there was no other sorceress he could visit except her. Doka answered with agreement, but he himself thought that now she does not dare to run away. She is still the same naive girl. The next day, the butler greeted Larry and asked if she was looking for Mr. Larry, asked if he knew where Asher was. The butler replied that the gentleman had returned late and was now sleeping, and asked if she could wake him. He will be happy if she not only wakes up the master, but also preferably marries him. The butler has already drawn up a plan for the years. To get to the master's bedroom, you need to go left and then straight. Larry has never been in Asher's bedroom before. The room was huge and the decoration was luxurious. Larry went to the Duke's bed and woke him up. Asher stood up and, all disheveled, asked what she was doing here. And suddenly he remembered how the butler tried to persuade him to marry her. Larry sat down on his bed and said that she thought it was best to do the cleansing in the bedroom at the moment, so she should start right away. She said that from today she will cleanse his upper body. The curse is only cleansed if it touches bare skin. How sneaky. Asher was very surprised, and Larry insisted that he undress, coming even closer to him. While he hesitated, Larry said that she could undress him herself. Asher refused and began to take off his shirt. Asher asked if he needed to remove the bandage, and Larry replied that it should touch bare skin. Asher removed the bandage, and his body was saturated with curses. The curse is really very strong. Larry was shocked, but still began to treat it. Larry said that the curse is so great that she cannot finish everything at once, but she will try. While Larry was treating him, Asher was very embarrassed because she was too close. She used too much mana again and fell right on top of him. Larry admitted that she actually didn't have much mana left due to her healing the priest yesterday. Larry said that she had become friends with him, and if it did not interfere with the cleansing, she wanted to help him from time to time. Asher first wanted to ask if she did the same to him, but then he thought that a priest is usually a woman, so he might not have to worry about anything. And Larry asked Asher when he would fall in love with her before he passed out. The next day, Larry could not find Asher. She ran throughout the estate and looked for him. At the table, she sadly said that Asher continued to avoid her. She thought that perhaps she had pushed him too hard. She consults with Doha on all issues. Although apart from the curse, they managed to make friends while they were looking for Asher around the estate. Larry thought that since Doha was so handsome, he must have met many girls. Doha noticed her gaze and asked how about making him jealous. He said that there is not a single man who can resist the spectacle of his beloved with another. Larry replied that she did not have a suitable partner. She thought that she never had a boyfriend and male friends because of his fiancé. Doha replied that this was too much. Pulling her towards him, he said that he was also a man. Talking to her and healing her at the same time, Larry was surprised by his strength. This jealousy operation didn't seem like such a bad idea, she thought. Larry imagined Asher asking her not to leave him alone and asking if she wanted to see him go crazy. This is a wonderful picture. I really liked Larry, who has already gotten the hang of such fantasies. But this is not good for Asher. He will be in bad condition. So she said that she will try to get out on her own and thanked him for his help. She decided to deal with everything herself. When Asher arrived late at night, Larry was waiting for him on the stairs, looking completely unhappy. Asher asked why she was not sleeping, and Larry replied that she was waiting for him because it was very difficult to see a face so busy. She approached him, thinking that it was worth dotting all the I's, and reminded him that he should go for a walk with her twice a week. Asher looked at her and thought that he was sick from the pain in his stomach, or it seemed that it was his heart. When he stands in front of the sorceress, he feels very strange, which is why he avoided her. Asher didn't want to feel even weirder, and turned away and asked if she wanted to take a walk in the garden tomorrow. Larry felt that she was the only one clinging to this relationship. Asher would be fine as long as she cleaned him up. Only now, before her death, she did not want to obey and give up, as she did at that time. So she put on a smile and told Asher that he might be very busy. The Duke is busy and she is only distracting him, Larry said. Asher was surprised that she called him Duke and did not say his name. Larry continued that while the Duke was busy, she would go eat with her priest friend, so she would miss this breach of contract, and said that he could devote himself to work.